야, 여기 뭐냐? 장난 아니다. 와, 씨발 존나 크다.
카메라를 달아보세요. 스마일. 카메라를 달아보세요. 스마일.
아이씨. 너는 병신아. 아이씨.
카메라를 달아보세요. 스마일.
야, 야, 저 뭐냐? 존나 이상하게 생겼네.
씨발 대가리 존나 크다.
첫 번째 게임은 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다입니다.
Participants will have the opportunity to run towards the finish line by playing a selection of maps that test various skills. For each map, the more participants you beat, the higher your odds are at crossing the finish line and passing this round. Only 128 participants will be able to pass this round. You will have 6 opportunities to score as high as possible while it has its back turned.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Squid Game First Game Showcase. I am Mint, and I'm here joined with Dynascape.
Hey guys, Dynascape here, and I am very excited to present the maps for the first game.
Today, we will be looking at 6 maps, 2 of them rice, 2 hybrid, and 2 long note. Players will only be allowed 1 singular run through all of the maps. These maps will get progressively harder, starting with the easier maps and ending with the harder maps. We will be giving as much information as possible that we think that the players will need to go into this first game with confidence. Our first map will be Omnipotence Peacebreaker, Stage 1 Breakdown. This map was made by Mysterion and is our first map of the first game pool. It is a rice map, essentially an all-round attack map with bursts, jacks, you name it, it's gonna be in here. This song is the original BMS version for She's famous song, and I would say it's fairly on the easy side of this map pool, though I would say that the technicality of this map really requires a strong fundamental in accuracy. Since this is relatively physically easy, it's definitely going to give players some trouble on the accuracy side, since there's going to be so many people who will score really well on this kind of map, and we'll just see, like, a lot of good scores. There's going to be a lot of competition in the higher end, so that's definitely something to look forward to in the results for this map. As we get into the build-up section here, we're going to see some more introduction of these harder bursts, as well as these jacks going into approaching the chorus, which will be essentially the hardest part of the map, the big physicality tester here, at least for the lower level. I would say that even with this level of accuracy, there's still definitely an element of physicality, particularly for the players who will be on the, I suppose, lower echelon of scores for this map. And we get into the chorus here, lots of really rapid bursts, very short ones as well. You gotta watch out for those jacks as well, those triple jacks. Luckily this section is really short, so there's not really a stamina component here. Well, we'll see a stamina component in the later maps, not this one. We'll get to that. So that's Peacebreaker. So yeah, we'll be looking at the next map, the hybrid map, shortly.
Stage 2's map is Square Peg by Pluvio and is mapped by Elixir. It can be described as an early game, rice-oriented hybrid. This beginning section here is going to feature a lot of staggered LN heads that end in a coordinated release, so it's very important that in these first few measures you minimize your 200s and 300s. Kind of like stage 1, again accuracy is key here. This is an early game map, so it is expected to be very competitive with a lot of high scores from most participants. And as we get into this first difficulty spike, you'll see here that most of the rice difficulty is going to come from bursty streams, and they do arrive in a variety of snaps, including 1/5 and 1/8. I think that they are very much ever changing, so it's again pretty important that you try to minimize your 300 as much as possible. I don't think a lot of people are going to have problems hitting these patterns, as they're not too abrasive as far as streams go, and they're not very long either. So halfway through this map, you do get a very small break section where you can try to gain back combo if you did drop, but again, you only get one run through all of these maps, so a miss could decide whether or not you survive to the second game. A couple more of these staggered heads here, and a very small coordination section before the Ki hits, and it's very much more of the same from the first quarter or the second quarter of the map. Again, just a lot of LNs intertwined with those rice bursts. A couple jacks here and there, not very abrasive again yet. You just have to make sure that you try to get your accuracy as high as possible, as you just know that all of the other participants in this game are probably going to do very well on this. Pretty important to note that a lot of these LNs are quite difficult to time in both the start and the release, especially when you do have rice in between. So a lot of finger control required, but that is going to do it for Square Peg Stage 2.
Now, for those of you who are familiar with the ranked map Weenie Walker, you might feel a little worried right now, but rest assured this is quite substantially easier than that. It is very much the same kind of map though. It's LN, slow, coordination, flowy releases, that sort of thing. And so this is going to be LN1, and this is the longest map in the pool, so it requires quite a bit of consistency. However, I would say that the break sections definitely makes it feel a little softer, like a softer landing, sort of. So these sorts of intuitive, flowy releases kind of really requires, I guess, good fundamentals. Even if this is perhaps the physically easiest map in the pool, there's still that necessity for these good fundamentals and long notes. And, well, this characteristic is shared with many of the LN and hybrid maps that we'll be seeing in the bracket pool later on. So I suppose that this is sort of the justification for it here. And the chorus here, this is where things really pick up, especially particularly the intensity of the releases, and I guess some like quads and dumps and such. This is really where the map starts to shine. While the break sections don't necessarily like cut around the bush either, but they still have like this, like they're not as intense as the chorus, of course, but you still need to pay attention, really close attention to these sorts of releases, unless you're like really good at these sorts of flowy, intuitive releases. Well, they're not unintuitive, so it's definitely a lot easier in that respect. I would say, like, regardless, there's consistency involved, there's fundamentals involved. So I do expect maybe the highest average for scores on this map, but I would not expect the highest score to be on this map. I would expect it to be on maybe Peacebreaker or Square Peg. So as we look at this sort of build-up section, we're going to see these sorts of breaks which might catch some players off guard. Some really short long notes here. For players who use cut LN tails, what you're seeing here might not be the best visualization for the difficulty of this map. Like, this map is definitely easier than it looks here. It's definitely not as tight as you might think it is. As we approach the... I would say this is probably the hardest pattern in the entire map. This after the chorus, this sort of like sustained note. It's like 1/6 dump. And, well, it's over really quickly, and the releases are definitely not as hard, but it's just the physically densest part. And we get some interesting inverse sections here. Really, this is probably the tightest part of the map in terms of releases. We get a short break section. It's kind of the outro, you know, just kind of like let the map finish, you know. Some tight inverse gaps here, and then it just like wraps up. So yeah, that was Tiny Bunny. And we're going to be moving on to LN2 now.
Stage 4 Sidonia features the song Dream and Attraction by Hino Isuka and is mapped by CRZ Priscaline. The map is a fast, density type LN map with inverse jump stream as the focus. For any old heads or 7K players out there watching right now, this song was also used in the Osumania 7K World Cup Finals and Grand Finals map pool all the way back in 2017. I think that Dream and Attraction is definitely going to separate the top seeds from the mid seeds in this tournament, as higher end LN maps always seem to be a good litmus test for those who are going to make it far, and I expect a lot of variation between the top scores and the bottom scores for these qualifiers. The map isn't straightforward all the way through, so you do have to watch out for intrusive anchors, trills, bursts, and even a couple of LN flams scattered throughout the map. Although it's only 2 minutes and 15 seconds long, it's a major test of concentration, as one lapse in judgment might kill your one and only run. And it's definitely on the harder side of the qualifier pool. The map being non-stop 205 BPM density patterns, it's very much primarily a test of LN physicality. And LN physicality is going to have a major presence in the later bracket pools. Just pass through a small break section, and for the rest of the map, again, that physicality is going to be needed. So I do think that it is important to be very warm before your run through of all of these maps in general. You do want to have a good, nice session beforehand. But other than that, stage 4 Sidonia, definitely going to be one to test your LN skills. So hopefully you guys can get a good run on this and finish off strong. And only 2 more maps left in store for the showcase. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. U East 2018 brings us Stage 5 Paradox with the song Antithesis by Black Lolita. This map is the harder hybrid of the first game, the other one being Stage 2 Square Peg. And it does feature a lot of LN jacks and dump, as well as a couple of just pure rice jack sections. You'll see here that the combination of jacks and LNs can be very, very difficult to coordinate, and just in general, the streams are more difficult. They are longer in length and are more abrasive than the ones seen in Square Peg. Quick little break section here. We get a couple of staggered release sections, so just make sure that you aren't dropping any stray 200s or even a miss. And as it speeds back up, we get a little bit more LN with some streams before it gets into a full LN pattern with a repeated inverse section here. And back into the LNs plus the jacks. Do note that these jacks are 172 BPM, so they're definitely no walk in the park. They're not too long, but they're extremely fast. And by now you are at stage 5, so I expect a lot of people to be gassed out, especially when you are reaching the back half of this map. Thankfully, it is only 2 minutes and 15 seconds long. It's just that it's so very physical. You do need to be locked in for the entire time. As this map gets into the last couple of patterns, get a couple streams, again more jacks, and then a pretty tame ending to finish it off. And that is going to do it for stage 5. Only one map left to go in the pool.
Stage 6, Oriental Mythology, Katagiri, map by yours truly. This is the hardest map in the pool, by far. 270 BPM jump streams and broken jump streams with bursts. And it's just like, it's so physically demanding that it basically requires everyone to warm up before you play these maps. That includes the top players. Like, the top players will be struggling with this. Even our player here, Nepijin, and thank you for the replay by the way, is somewhat struggling with this. Well, not necessarily accuracy-wise, since for accuracy this is definitely easy, but the physicality is what makes this map really difficult. And, well, as you can see, like, we do have like a singular miss here on this replay. It's really hard to be consistent on it. Like, getting full combo is no laughing matter. This is going to be really difficult for even the top players. So don't sweat too much if your score is maybe a little bit worse than you would hope for a qualifier, typical qualifier map. Because we're not expecting like high scores from this. We're expecting like, we're going to be reasonable here. Don't expect yourself to get like really high scores on this. Also, I would say this is slightly front-loaded. The back half of this map is definitely easier than the front half. So even then, like, this map is fairly stamina draining for people with like maybe the lower echelon physicality, like weaker physicality. So maybe like don't drain yourself in this first half, because then the second half will become infinitely harder for yourself. So just like this is a test of conserving stamina, if anything, at least for people who aren't top players. There's a lot of, I guess, like broken jump streams which might serve as breaks for some players. Maybe that's also comes into this sort of like conserving your stamina aspect of this map, which is definitely a huge part of, I guess, this tournament as a whole. So I guess in a sense this really embodies a lot of the things that we will see in upcoming, maybe like later half, the second half of the bracket pools of Squid Game. We'll see a lot of the sort of, not the same level of physicality, but we'll definitely see like really high physicality here. And it's definitely going to be a huge challenge for everyone. We don't want this to be a walk in the park for the top players. And I'm really excited to see how this tournament will turn out. And there it is, the map is over. It's not that short. And we'll just close out the first game showcase here. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll be posting map pool schedules and all that in the Discord as soon as we can, hopefully today. And, well, there's not really much of an announcement that we'll need to make. We'll be running this like your standard qualifiers, so if you have any questions, please just let us know in the server, and, well, we'll have you guys schedule your matches and stuff. So we'll just keep an eye out in the Discord server for more announcements. For now, that'll be us signing off, And thank you so much for watching. And we hope you look forward to these showcases every week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you and goodbye.